Okay, good day, musicians. Welcome to another wonderful lesson. So, in this short lesson, we will be focusing on the concept of chord inversions, what they are, how we can build inversions, the theory behind inversions, and how we can actually apply inversions. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, when we talk about inversions simply means inverting a chord, changing the position, the notes of a chord. You are still playing the same chord, but you are changing instead of playing it by the roots, you are playing it in a different way, but still the same notes. You are playing the notes in a different way, but still the same notes. So let's take a good example. Let's play the C major chord. The C major chord as built from the C major scale. The C major scale consists of the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The C major chord involves playing the first note of the scale, the third note of the scale, and the fifth note of the scale, which is C, 1, 2, 3, C, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, E, G. This is the C major scale. So to invert the C major chord, now playing the C major chord this way could be termed the root position of C major chord. This is the root position of it. And if we are to invert this chord, what we need to do here is to take the lowest note. We have 3 notes here, 1, 2, 3, and move it upward, because the keyboard is a kind of instrument whereby we have notes repeated throughout the keyboard. This is C, this is C, this is repeated throughout. We have E, F, G, so on and so forth. So when you play the C major chord, you just take note of the sound. So let's play the first inversion of C major. Playing the first inversion involves taking the lowest note, which is C. This is the lowest from the left to the right. Lowest, lower, low. I call it highest. Okay, so we have 1, 3, 5. So you take the lowest note upward, which is C. We have E, F, G, A, B, C. So this is C first inversion, but it's still the same thing actually. By just listen to it. But the only thing is that this note is not sounding low here. We are playing it in a way that it is sounding in another octave, so it looks higher in pitch. It's the same thing, but it looks higher. So to get the second inversion of C major, you need to take the lowest notes now. The lowest notes here now is your E. We have E, G, C. So we have G, C, E. Second inversion. So if we should invert again, let's invert again. The lowest note now is G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We are back to our root position, but in another octave. So the first inversion. So this is the rule. The rule applies for any chord. The C major 7 chord, for example, 1, 3, 5, 7, involves playing the first, third, fifth, and seventh note of the C major scale. The first inversion will be taking the C upward, which is this. This is your C, right? So we have as the first inversion. Second inversion will be this, taking your E, now the lowest note upward. So we have G, B, C, E. There's a close voicing. So the third inversion involves taking this upward. So we have, then root position again involves taking the lowest note upward, and we have this again. So this is how inversion works. And I think the purpose of inversion, one of the major purposes of inversion, is to improve the quality of your sound, and also to help you to play in a particular area. For example, let's play the 1, 5, 6, 4 progression. Normally when you play the 1, 5, 6, 4 progression without inversions, it's going to look this way. I'm jumping, I want to go to my fifth chord 1. To my fifth chord, I will have to jump here, which is kind of busy and making me too busy and it can increase my chances of making mistakes and make me uncomfortable in note here. So I want to go to my fourth, we have to jump here again. So I'm actually jumping to and fro, fourth from one to the other is kind of uncomfortable for me. But let me try and play this without this chord progression with inversions, and let's see. Pay attention to the sound also. You see, I'm not jumping like that, but it's still giving me the same thing. You see, the next chord, which is this, the same thing, right? The next chord, I'm still in this area. I'm not moving to and from. I'm still in this particular area. So mistakes have been minimized. This is the same thing as this. Then so we have, so inversion helps you. So let me give you the inversion as a bonus for this chord. So this is your first chord, this is your fifth chord. So to invert this, because I want them to be in a particular area, so you can use any inversion of your choice. You can decide to make this inversion for as if you can decide to make this as your first chord. That is the C major first inversion when starting this progression, like. Then you go to this. And I'm just playing with it. I'm kind of missing various inversions of this chord progression. What I mean actually is, you can decide to start with this. You can decide to start with this inversion. For example, this is C major second inversion. Now you look for, we don't want to jump around. So the next chord is your fifth chord, this is your G major. So, and we can see that we are actually close to the G major chord in root position, that area. So we are actually playing the G here in a C, because the C contains your G, C, E, G. So all the notes we now need to make up the next chord is G, B, D, right? But we are already on G, so what you need to do is look for the two notes which are closer to this, B, D. So it's the same area, 1, 5. So we can decide to, for our sixth, we can decide the next chord after your fifth is your sixth. So we can actually decide to play the sixth in root position, or we can actually decide, or take it here, this inversion. This is your root, inversion, inversion, root, inversion, inversion. So we can decide to move from your fifth to sixth in root position, or to sixth in second inversion. Then we can decide to just move this hand here for our fourth chord, because fourth involves 4, 6, 1. You see, these notes are kind of interconnected, and we are still in this area. That's the progression. Sorry. The same area. Instead of jumping like this, you can decide to play and look for the notes that are close to the next chord. Then you utilize that inversion of your choice there. So another thing you can use an inversion for is chord soloing. When you are soloing with chord, for example, this popular song. When soloing, we all know about, for chord solo, you actually, okay, this is so far. Mi, re, do, re, mi, 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 re, 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 mi, so, so, mi, re, do, re, mi, 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 re, re, mi, re, do, right? So when doing chord solo, you're actually soloing with a chord, and the highest notes will be your so fars. For example, the first note is mi, so if you are to invert the C major chord, highest note here is mi, and sometimes you can the notes that contain E, your mi, the chords that contain these notes, usually this, your first chord, and this also contains it, your third chord, your third minor. Sometimes you can also invert this, but most times when you are playing your mi, it usually works with your first chord for chord solo. So the next note will be re. It usually works with your fifth note in root position. The next note will be do. So in first inversion, your one chord. So the next note is re, is also, so it works with your fifth because it's the highest note of the fifth chord. Mi, mi, mi. Or you can decide to play, now we are at the middle of the song, you can decide to make use of your one chord, which has mi as the highest note, or your third chord by playing the inversion, the first inversion. This is your third chord, mi, so, ti. So just take this here. So mi, mi, re, do, re, mi, 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 re, re, re. Then you can use this inversion for your mi. Mi, so, so. For your so, actually notes that contain the chord that has so, your fifth chord, and your first chord also has so, but in the root position is this. So let me just give you the format so it will be easier for you to, when soloing with chords. So for the first note, which we are going to play do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do for chords. So it goes like this: mi, so, do, re, fa, la, re. Sometimes for your re, use your fifth chord. You can compare with your E. So do, re, mi, so, do, mi, or you can use this mi sometimes. Mi, do, re, mi, fa, la, do, fa, la, fa, so. All this for your so. La, all this for your la. Then your T, all this for your T. Do, sometimes you need your E. So let's, for this, for example, we have mi, re, do, re, mi, 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 re, 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 mi. Now since we are going to our first chord, we won't be using this for our so. We're using this. So we have again. We are using this mi because we're going to our first chord. But sometimes you can decide to use this mi. Re, but you can use this your re instead of this, or you can decide to also use this. Most times what determines the notes you use is the chord you are moving to. So that's one of the other purposes of inversion. So it could be used for many other purposes, but for now, you should know this. So it's a kind of tricky lesson. You can ask questions on parts you find difficult to comprehend. Down in the comment section below, I will try and provide you with the answer. Good luck rehearsing.